Hey Jenny, what did you think of the movie?
I actually really did like it.
Hello lovely people, I'm Nicole and today I am going to be talking about the Mockingjay Part 2 movie. For some reason my local theater was showing it at like 7 o'clock on Thursday. So my best friend and I went to a 7:15 showing. It's our tradition that we always go to the earliest showing of the Hunger Games movies that we can get our hands on tickets for. Alright, so if you haven't seen it yet, I thought it was amazing. It was really well done, really faithful to the book. There were a couple little sort of subtle changes that were made that some of them were just tiny little additions, some of them were things that were done to make it work better for a cinematic medium versus a book. And so I totally understand why they made the just couple little tiny changes that they did. The acting in this film, just like for the other three, was absolutely incredible, especially Jennifer Lawrence and Josh Hutcherson. Both of them just blew my mind with how amazing they are. Continuing on from Mockingjay Part 1, just absolutely phenomenal portrayal of mental illness, you know, them dealing with the aftermath and PTSD from the Hunger Games. So well done, with especially with everything that Peeta was dealing with from the tracker-jacker hijacking that we learned about at the end of the last film. The cinematography was absolutely gorgeous. There were a number of like wide shots, a couple of which we saw in the trailer, like the one with the big oil thing, a couple of which, most of which we didn't, that were just absolutely beautiful. Some of them hauntingly so, some of them just gorgeous. So A+ cinematography. One of the problems I had with the book was that it felt like it was just constantly going. There was no time to stop and breathe and process what just happened, and I think the movie did a good job of giving us that time. Overall, I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. Such a brilliant end to an amazing film series. I definitely think that The Hunger Games is one of the best book to movie adaptations that I've seen. It's definitely one of my favorites. I do want to warn for any of you guys who may be sensitive about jump scares, because I know that that can be kind of harmful to some people and really just traumatizing. I know I really don't like them, so I just wanted to warn you, there is a jump scare about halfway through the movie. I don't want to give too much detail because I don't want to accidentally spoil anything, but I will say it's in a scene where it's the kind of scene that you can tell a jump scare is going to happen, and so I just want to warn if anyone is sensitive to that kind of thing. Overall, like I said, I loved it. I highly recommend, if you like the books or if you liked the previous movies in the series, to go see it. I still think my favorite of the series is Catching Fire, but this one is probably my second favorite, followed by Mockingjay Part 1 and then Hunger Games. Please go see it. I cannot recommend you go see it enough. I'm going to talk in a little bit more depth for some spoilery things now, so if you have not seen the movie, go see it and then come back and watch the rest of this. I am so excited to talk about this movie. Okay, bye non-spoilery people, and hello spoilery people. So, this movie gave me emotions. I thought that beginning with sort of the calm start, almost, you know, it started off almost jarringly calm. You usually expect movies to start with some big, you know, welcome to our movie dramatic thing, or super elegant cinematography type thing, but it was just very much like, alright, you're in the story and things are happening, but not like eye-catching magic blah 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 over the top things. I really liked that. In general, there was a very sort of like raw emotional feel to it, which I really liked. I think Mockingjay Part 1 also had a little bit of that, but we got even more of it in this one. We saw it in times like after, you know, the big fighting was all done, and when Katniss learns that it was Gale who ordered the bomb strike that killed Prim. And in the book, this is one of the little differences from the book to the movie, I think, because if I remember correctly, in the book, it was this big screaming match at him after she found out. But in the book, it was more just like this really tense, raw, emotional silence. And like you could feel how just like destroyed she was by it. And it was so powerful. There were a lot of moments like that. I think all the moments between Katniss and Peeta, seeing them slowly build back their relationship, were really, really, really well done. Especially, I loved that it wasn't really a montage, but it was kind of a montage at the end where we saw them back in District 12, getting close again. Because, like, they got back on, like, terms where they weren't trying to kill each other during the invasion. But, like, we really got to see them, you know, sort of fall in love again, and I thought it was really beautiful. Especially, there was that scene where they were both sitting in the doorway looking out at the rain, and I realized while watching that is almost an exact copy of the scene in, I think it was the first movie, where they were both sitting looking out the window, and that's when Peeta has his line about, "I don't want to be just another piece in their games." And I thought that was a really cool sort of callback. Speaking of the end, one of the two scenes in the film that made me cry was that scene with Buttercup, with Katniss throwing things at her and just so upset because Buttercup is like the one thing she has left of her sisters. And I just, throughout the entire movies, Buttercup has been so well portrayed. I mean, that sounds kind of weird because it's not like she's like a major character that needs to be well portrayed, but I love the use of her as a constant device to sort of connect Katniss with Prim. And then her sort of having that hug with her at the end. Oh, so emotions. So many emotions. The other scene that made me cry, this is also the number one scene that makes me cry in the book, Finnick's death. Finnick Odair is by far my favorite character in the series. More so in the books, just because he gets more material in the books, more sort of back and forth jokes. His line about the welcome to the 76th Hunger Games, so well done. That was in the trailers. I loved it in the trailers. I loved it in the movie. Beautiful. I love Finnick, period. Who doesn't love Finnick? It's Finnick Odair. The wedding touched my heart, but his death. In the book, his death is really interesting and really kind of unique, I think, because it doesn't get sort of... Okay, I'm going to contrast it to Fred's death in Deathly Hallows. If you haven't read Deathly Hallows or seen it yet, sorry. What are you doing? But with Fred, when Fred dies in Deathly Hallows, there's this moment where everything stops. And, like, obviously there's, you know, they're in the middle of a big battle, things don't actually stop, but it feels like time freezes because everyone's so in shock that this person who is basically, you know, the light in the darkness of this war is gone. And Finnick's death is a similar situation because it's in the middle of a chaotic battle and suddenly the light in the dark of the war is gone. But where in Harry Potter we feel that like everything stops moment, that doesn't happen in Mockingjay. And I really, really, really like the way it's done in the book, where it's just, it's blink and you miss it. And the first time I read it, I had to go back and reread it just because I could not believe that. I got like a couple pages later and they're like, I can't believe Finnick's dead. And I was like, wait, what? I had to go back and reread it. And I really liked that in the book. I mean, obviously, you know, I love Finnick and I would have loved for him to get this big, elaborate goodbye. But I think it was really symbolic of just like, shit happens in war. And no one's safe, no one is, you know, you don't get those final goodbye moments. You know, everything happens so fast and you don't have time to process it. In the movie, it was more drawn out, it was more dramatic. It wasn't a blink and you miss it. which I think worked better for a cinematic context, because if it's that kind of thing in a movie, then if you miss it, you can't just go back a page. It's a little bit more difficult to do. And I think it could be potentially confusing for the audience. So I'm kind of glad that they did stretch it out a little bit more. I think it worked well for the movie. I think Annie's letter at the end, sort of giving that whole sort of wrap up thing, was a really good way to do that, because it gave us that sort of, you know, where are they now thing without feeling like it was just blurting it in our faces, which I think without that letter would have been really difficult to do, because it's all internal monologue in the epilogue. Speaking of the Mutts, though, in Finnick's death, they looked really different than I pictured. In my head, reading the book, I pictured them as way more animalistic, more like the Mutts from the first movie, very like dog-like, whereas in this movie they basically looked like Inferi. They were terrifying, but not what I pictured. And of course, the added thing that I think everyone I've talked to loves, and that is Haymitch and Effie. They're so cute. I love that. It's really subtle, and it doesn't like take away from the main plot line, but it's so well done, and it's so cute, and their little like kiss goodbye was just precious, and I loved it. And then of course the final finale, the epilogue, where Katniss is talking to her daughter. I think it's her daughter. I assume it's her daughter. Baby in her arms, and talking about nightmares, and she's talking about the games, and that, I think it was the last line of the movie. I'm not 100% sure. I have a really bad memory, but that line where she's talking about the game she plays, where she thinks of all the good things that people have done. She's like, oh, it gets a bit redundant after a while, but you know, there are worse games to play. Beautiful. Fucking beautiful. I loved it. I love this movie, and I love this franchise, and I'm so emotional now that it's over. Thank you, Hunger Games franchise people. I mean, I haven't always been thrilled at the marketing side. All the using it to sell makeup and cars and stuff is horrifically ironic. But I think both the movies and the books are just absolutely beautiful and really powerful political statements just in general. I mean, if you look at the Harry Potter Alliance's campaign, We Are District 12, I think, it really just like, there's so much of that book series that is currently happening, and that's a problem we need to address. It's such a powerful series. I love it. I am so sad that it's over, but so happy that it was so well done. I highly recommend, if for some reason you watched all the way to this point and haven't seen it yet, that you go watch it, because it's so good and it's beautiful, and it was a fantastic end to a fantastic series. Let me know what you thought in the comments. I love you, and I will see you later. Bye!